Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to the show. This is The Civil Point with none other than your host, moi, Ariana Dieva. We are back with a brand new episode, and if you guys haven't already, you guys can go ahead and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on brand new episodes of The Civil Point with moi, Ariana Dieva. And we talk about just everything going on in the world that's affecting our daily lives and what could be affecting them in the future with this current administration and how our lives could look extremely different in, I don't even want to say a year's time, maybe even like 3 months' time. It's just crazy what's going on. But I hope you guys are having an amazing weekend. I've been chillaxing. I've been just, trying to gather my thoughts. I've been really on the edge of sanity and breaking that sanity, only because I've been studying so much for my final that's coming up. But other than that, everything's going good. But we are gonna get into some topics today, and again, we have our government officials in government buildings telling us that our freedom of speech is no longer accessible or a right to us under the Constitution. And I covered Stephen Miller the other day calling protesters street terrorists, deeming protesters street terrorists is normalizing the fact that these people are trying to dehumanize the act of dissent of a government who is trying to oppress them. And that's a problem, because obviously it's a violation of the Constitution. Everyone has a right to protest. Everyone has a right to peacefully protest. And everyone has a right to voice their concerns in any manner they see fit that is respectful, as well as, chill and cool and, follows the guidelines of peaceful protesting. So we're going to get into it today, because Mike Johnson, Lord Jesus, that closeted gay man sat up here and was talking about the No Kings March. And we're going to go ahead and just play the footage here. Let's get this on up here. All right, so this is Mike Johnson addressing the No Kings March. Let's get into it.
I'll turn it back over to the leader, take some questions, but we've heard, and many of you have reported already, this Hate America rally that they have coming up for October 18th, the Antifa crowd and the pro-Hamas crowd and the Marxists, they're all going to gather on the mall. We got some House Democrats selling T-shirts for this event. It is an outrageous gathering for outrageous purposes, but the Democrats in the Senate have shown that they're afraid of that crowd, that they don't want to bow. They want to bow to them, bow the knee to them, and they don't want to take incoming from them. And so they're willing to hold the American people hostage so that they don't have to face an angry mob that's a big chunk of their base. Now, if that's a rumor, they need to come out and clarify that it's not, but that is what we are hearing is their actual motivation, and it is outrageous. All this has got to come to an end.
Now, hold up. Because before I get into the whole comments of him calling what he's addressing as the No Kings rally a We Hate America rally, can we talk about the amount of blush that is on that man's face and the amount of foundation? That man is like a porcelain doll right now, and he's sitting up here trying to take away gay rights. Sir, you're not going to have access to your foundation and blush if gay rights are taken away. You're not going to have access to makeup if you are trying to do exactly what you were trying to do. Sir, your makeup artist and your products are no longer going to be accessible to you, Mike Johnson. But again, let's take a look at this.
But we've heard, and many of you have reported already, this Hate America rally that they have coming up for October 18th.
So, on October 18th, there is a No Kings rally. It's a protest in regards to what is going on in the United States. And what Mike Johnson is essentially saying and dictating is that this We Hate America rally is not feasible. It's not okay. It's being demonized. Protesting No Kings. Literally, the name of the rally is No Kings. America is built on the fact that we will never have a king. So how is it a We Hate America rally? Because we don't want a king. Again, they're trying to perverse the ideology of protesting and trying to demonize it as we are terrorists for standing up for what we want for America, because America is for the people, by the people, run by the people. The government serves us. We don't serve the government. But yet we have Mike Johnson here saying that this No Kings rally is essentially a protest against America, a complete demonization of America, a complete demonization of the government. And that is correct, because we don't want a king. We are demonizing the government because they are trying to implement acts that show that we have a king, a dictator, and we don't want one. So again, we have a actual government official taking the freedom of speech and trying to rip it away from Americans by saying we hate America. That the terminology is meant to manipulate the public perception of people who are against no kings and make them evil. That's what the wording and the terminology is all about. And this isn't the first government official in Mike Johnson to conduct this verbiage to demonize people who are protesting the current government. So it's scary that he also then lumps in a bunch of groups of people. So we'll go ahead and take a listen to this.
The Antifa crowd and the pro-Hamas crowd and the Marxists, they're all...
The Antifa crowd, everyone should be Antifa. Everyone should be anti-fascist. We don't want a government that is focused on one group of people and the success of one group of people while pushing aside and marginalizing groups of people into poverty. Like, we don't want that. And to throw in the pro-Hamas crowd, like, no one's pro-Hamas. We're pro-stopping the war in Israel, which apparently, in Gaza, which is apparently, coming to an end. But we're not pro-Hamas. We're pro not killing children and mothers and people in general through a genocide that our country supported. And now they're trying to play the hero and say we created a deal when for the past 3 years you supported this disgusting atrocity of a genocide of actual human beings. So to loop in Antifa, which is a positive movement. We don't want fascism in the United States. Everyone should agree with that. If you don't know the definition of fascism, go look it up, because a lot of people, Maga related, are like, well, why are you Antifa? Look it up. Look it up. Do your research. That's your homework for tonight. But for Mike Johnson to lump all these groups together as there's some evil groups that are trying to take over the United States, it's not true. It's meant to manipulate public perception to try and view people who don't agree with our government's decisions as dissent, and that dissent is unlawful. And it's just simply not true, because under the First Amendment, we all have the right to protest. Now, I'm going to go ahead and go on to this real quick, because it's ironic, because I just said before how Stephen Miller also said, he's using terminology that demonizes protesters. And it's funny, I can't find this clip online anymore. It's been taken down, but thank you to my podcast, I can pull it right back up. So let's go ahead and go into this real quick, because Stephen Miller also is trying to remove the freedom of speech and destroy the act of freedom of speech from our constitutional rights. So go ahead, let's hit play on this.
Have had to
Here we go.
Any idea how many resources we have had to redesignate to deal with these street terrorists?
You explain that. Let me ask the question.
Let me play that again.
To deal with these street terrorists?
Let me play that again.
Designate. To deal with these street terrorists?
Street terrorist. This is people who are currently sitting in our government calling protesters who have the constitutional right to protest street terrorists and we hate America rallies. Come on. This is ridiculous at this point. We already know the MO of this government. The MO is to silence dissent, to destroy credibility, to destroy any sort of complete, I would say, what's the word I'm looking for? The word just went out of my mind. To destroy any sort of rebellion against this government. And it's an atrocity at this point. What this government is doing is trying to rework the United States into a world where we are cash cows. We are no longer individuals. We work for the government, we thrive for the government, and we report to the government. So that is basically the MO of this government. And I wanted to go ahead and loop this in here because this is also very scary because they're again trying to normalize the militarization of the army and our troops in our streets. We see it in Chicago. We see it in Chicago. We see it in Portland. We saw it in California, where the judge then ruled that deploying National Guard into California was unlawful, and yet they're still trying to do it in other cities throughout the states, thinking they're going to get a different result from courts that keep blocking them from sending troops into cities to harm American citizens. So again, we just have a complete bullshit show of what is going on in our government. But here you can hear him say and try and justify throwing military in our streets to normalize it. So let's go ahead and hit play.
He also says that you are profiling, that you're targeting black and brown people, even those who turn out to be here legally. What's your response?
Well, first of all, the black people in Chicago are thrilled that we're getting the illegal aliens out of their communities who are stealing their housing, jobs, and resources.
Another talking point. Black people are happy about getting illegal aliens out of their communities for stealing their jobs and resources. Another MAGA talking point, which is untrue.
The illegal aliens who are here are taking jobs away from blacks. They're taking jobs away from whites. They're taking jobs away from Latinos. We cannot have a system of law in this country that privileges illegal aliens over American citizens.
And I want to make this very clear. Our laws do not privilege illegal aliens, or as they should be called, immigrants, over American citizens. They don't have the same rights as us. Yes, they are afforded due process and things of that nature, but when it comes to healthcare, illegal immigrants that are here illegally aren't even like eligible for healthcare when it comes to Medicaid and Medicare. So the talking points that Stephen Miller and Mike Johnson continue to dole out and spit out through their assholes is that America prioritizes immigrants, but that's never been the case. We've welcomed immigrants. We've said, here's a platform for you to start a life, but we've never prioritized immigrants. It's the bold-faced lies for me. But let's continue on with this because this goes into a little bit of a debate on CNN.
I love the idea that Stephen Miller has a pipeline to the black community in Chicago and knows what black people in Chicago are thinking. I kind of doubt that's the case.
But he does understand the politics of division.
Well, absolutely.
He understands that very well.
You know, it is true that the mayor of Chicago is not allowed to obstruct the work of ICE. And I think some of what he said comes very close to obstructing that. And that's just simply not the law. He's right that people inside buildings can demand a warrant from ICE if they can, and they're not obliged to let them in. But it is also true that you know, you can call yourself a sanctuary city or whatever you want, but under the law, a locality is not allowed to interfere with the work of ICE.
And this is true. This is true if it's done in the proper legal process, which Trump and his own personal militia in ICE is not doing. So let's be 100% clear about what is currently going on here. Trump is using military force in ICE to intrude and invade United States cities and attack their public citizens who are American. That is what's happening right now. And he's right. Technically, local law enforcement cannot impede on ICE doing their raids and their detainees They can't. Under law, under the hierarchy of law and the hierarchy of enforcement, no, they can't. They're not allowed to. But because what Trump is doing with his own personal militia right now is violating laws, then technically the states don't have to follow the hierarchy of law. Now, I want to point out what this man is saying right here. So I want to pull this up right now. So what he is referring to and what Stephen Miller was referring to in regards to the use of military force in our cities is Title 10 of the U.S. Code, Section 252. And this basically states that the president has the right to release military forces in U.S. cities to deter, detain, or control an outbreak of a rebellion, which is true. And this is why Stephen Miller, Mike Johnson, Donald Trump himself continue the rhetoric to demonize and then inflate the flames that currently aren't even there, because they want to try and militarize the cities of the United States, mostly the democratic cities of the United States. I mean, we're going into the election periods of the midterms, and why not have police force normalized to instill fear for voting? That's the goal here. So it's 100% true. The president does have the right to militarize in U.S. cities if needed, because there's a rebellion going on. But let's talk about Title 10, because Stephen Miller perverts it. He manipulates it, and he misses vital steps that the president would need to take to get approval for the militarization of, say, ICE in our cities. So, whenever the president considers that unlawful obstructions combinations or assemblages or rebellion against the authority of the United States make it impracticable to enforce the laws of the United States in any state by the ordinary cause of judicial proceedings, he may call into federal service such as a militia of any state and use such of the armed forces as he considers necessary to enforce those laws to suppress the rebellion. So yes, under Title 10, the president does have the right to militarize in United States cities. It's true. But what we're missing here, and what the Trump administration is missing here, is that they need to go through judicial proceedings. And they're not going through judicial proceedings, which means they're violating Title 10 of the United States Code. And then also Stephen Miller is sitting here saying they're violating Title 10 of the United States Code because the code clearly states you need judicial proceedings and you need approval for these acts. And they're not getting these approvals before they go into these cities, because these cities aren't burning down like Donald Trump is claiming. These cities aren't attacking ICE agents like Stephen Miller is claiming. These protests aren't "We Hate America" rallies like Mike Johnson is saying. These are untrue statements to inflate and conflate so that way they can militarize U.S. forces into our cities. It is a complete deception and a plan to militarize our cities to enforce martial law. So the lying needs to stop from these scummy, disgusting human beings who are currently running our country. And they need to follow the law. And they're not following the law. That's why Donald Trump's National Guard in California got sent out of California, because it was found to be unconstitutional. It was found to be illegal. And what's new when Trump is saying that something is illegal that he does because he's a 34 convicted count felon? So, again, when we look at this, they are not going through judicial proceedings. They are ignoring law, and they are violating law, and someone should sue them on this, because it very clearly states judicial proceedings are needing for approval for a president to militarize in U.S. cities. So let's continue to clock them on their mistakes and clock them on everything wrong they're doing. So we have more things to cover, because I wanted to talk about these podcasters, these influencers, these people that supported Trump going into office, these people that are now maybe having a little bit of buyer's remorse, seeing everything that's going on, from our ICE detainees to deportations, to those deportations resulting in bodies shackled up and, showing up on shores overseas, to little kids being zip-tied in the middle of the night, to ICE knocking on doors and removing people from their homes. Everything that's going on, everything that is happening, they're saying they did not vote for this, but you did. So I wanted to play a few Joe Rogan clips here, because Joe Rogan is really the poster boy for claiming that he did not vote for this. But then later on in his podcast, he continues to show how ignorant he is in regards to issues. And these podcasters, these influencers, these people in our government that have supported Donald Trump only want to now dissent from Donald Trump and oppose him when these policies affect them. So they're now reactively trying to say, I did not vote for this, instead of proactively, like they should have, assessed what this man was actually saying, because he said it clear as day. His plan was to deport everyone, Mexicans. He did not just say criminals. He literally said Mexicans at points in his rally, that they should have understood that from before. So trying to save face now does not look good. And I'm not falling for it. I'm not buying for it, because you should have been smart enough before you allowed this regime to take order in our country. So let's go ahead and look at what Joe Rogan had been saying here. So this first clip.
Well, I think the only way to do it would be where you could get everyone on your side. Borders are closed, and we're going to find out who's committed felonies. Who out of the people that are illegal that have committed felonies. And if you've committed X amount of felonies, you have to leave the country.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's a common sense border patrol. Like, immigration reform, that's common sense. I'm not against immigration reform. I think who should be in this country legally should be in this country legally. And if you are a criminal, then you should not be in this country if you are an immigrant. If you are a criminal and you are an American citizen, then you need to be in jail. And sometimes, in some cases, under the jail. But that's another story for another time. But in general, this is common sense immigration reform, that if you've convicted felonies, if you've been convicted of crimes and you continue to do these crimes, you need to be deported from the United States. That's common sense immigration. But what these dumbasses and these dingbats voted for was not an overhaul of immigration reform. No. They voted for what Donald Trump said: a deportation of Mexicans, a deportation of a group of people, a general description and a complete discriminatory comments on Mexicans. Let's continue playing here.
If you've been robbing people for the last 10 years and you're an illegal, you have to leave the country, right? That makes sense.
Yeah.
But if you've been here for 25 years, you have a family, your kids go to school here, you speak the language, you're just illegal. But you're a contributing member to the community that up until now has been protected. This is crazy to ask lower income and middle income people who are, kind of getting by, and then all of a sudden you're about to ship them to a country where they've never been. They haven't been since they were 4.
Yeah.
And you're gonna pull up their family
And this is why I don't feel bad for Joe Rogan. This is why I don't feel bad for these people that voted for this. Because again, I will say it, Donald Trump stated it plainly out, that this was a presidency ran on a mass deportation. And this mass deportation did not matter the color of your skin. If you looked like a person who is a Mexican, they will racially profile you and deport you. And it's been seen because now we have bodies shackled, rolling up on islands across the world, as well as you have missing detainees that have not been accounted for, and you have missing children that this administration are now not being accounted for, and someone needs to be held accountable for the concentration camps that have held these detainees, such as Alligator Alcatraz, that has unaccounted for detainees. So you can't sit here and say, oh my God, what is this? I didn't vote for it. When Donald Trump, in his entire election process, literally said and ran on mass deportations. You can't have now buyer's remorse when he clearly stated what he wanted to do. So Joe Rogan now with this face, like, oh my God, shocked, cannot happen. Like, you just have to own it that you fucked up and say, now I have to go on my podcast and say, we need a change. Not say, this is buyer's remorse. It's a little bit crazy. But then, and people are trying to now shoot this out as, Joe Rogan is changing. Joe Rogan was never fully, on the right, but he was never fully on the left. It would lean more to the right, but he was never really a liberal. And this is what's scary, is that they're manipulating their audiences to make them believe, and people who are not their audiences for clicks, to make them believe that now they are sorry for their vote without saying that they are sorry for their vote. And they are trying to sit here and be like, I am appalled by what is going on in this country. I am appalled by the actions taken by this presidency. But then they go on and continue their views of bigotry and racism and ignorance. And I'll show it here because this is from the same podcast on Joe Rogan. So let me go ahead and pull it up here. So this clip from Joe Rogan is him talking about homelessness.
Kind of fucking chaos that you can find in Portland. Like, whatever this is, you guys aren't doing it right. If this was a house and I came over your house and these are your kids, I would call protective services.
Right.
I'd be like, this fucking psychopath must be smoking meth with his kids because everybody's just running around camped out on the fucking sidewalk. Like, none of this makes sense. I'd be like, this is an unfit parent. That's an unfit government. If you've got a city where people are just openly shitting in the streets, sleeping everywhere, needles.
So this is the same exact rhetoric that Donald Trump and his cronies are using to incite violence in cities and actually use military-style forces such as the National Guard and ICE to detain people and hurt people. So in one sense, he's saying he's remorseful for his vote, but then he's continuing the contributions to the rhetoric by stating these sentences. So he's still ignorant, and he still has not changed his stance on certain issues. But when one issue affects him, it does not change his stance on all his other bullshit issues, as proven here. Let's continue playing.
You have homeless tents. You ever see Oakland? You ever see some of those fucking homeless tents?
Yeah, dude.
Those huge villages. Like, this is bananas.
So it pisses me off because it's ignorant statements. It's ignorant statements made by a man who's trying to seem like he's remorseful, but he's not remorseful at all. If he did his research and realized the contribution to what creates homelessness is people sometimes losing their jobs, is people sometimes having addiction issues, are people that sometimes just don't have the ability to work, are veterans who can't work and our government are not taking care of them, he would not be making these statements. There are other contributions to homelessness other than just laziness. And for him to sit here in the economy we are in the state of the world we are in the state of the United States we are in, and demonize and hold the homeless people to a standard that is unreachable for certain people in this economy, it's grotesque. It's not okay. It's ignorant. So on one moment in this podcast, he's saying, oh my God, the atrocities of this administration. And then 5 minutes later, he's making ignorant statements about homeless people, continuing the rhetoric that this administration is using to invade cities with their own private militia and ICE. So I wanted to do one more Joe Rogan clip here.
So this
because
is built.
This revolves around mob and protesting. And again, it shows his ignorance and how he doesn't really change on his issues unless an issue somehow affects him. And it shows that these people are scummy grifters. They are literally just not true and real human beings with compassion or empathy unless these decisions affect them personally. So let's go ahead and watch this clip on mob versus protesting, since we're talking about protesting earlier. Kind of aligns with everything.
Into you. When you're marching and you're all saying the same things, you're on the streets and you're all in agreement, you're a gang.
Yeah.
All right? You're a mob.
That's
and you're
it.
about to go to war. And anybody that gets in front of you, fuck you, move your fucking car.
Yeah.
People get completely unreasonable, and
Yeah.
it's totally tolerated. Not just tolerated, but it's supported by a bunch of other people who just start kicking the car.
Yeah.
People that would never kick a car in polite society. They'll
Right.
start kicking cars, fuck you. They get ramped up, man, and that's what mob mentality is.
Right.
Mob mentality is ancient war patterns.
That's it.
I'll let this finish.
Ancient war patterns that get ignited when people are on the street chanting.
Yeah.
Because historically, when you did that, that's what you were doing. You were going to go fuck someone up.
So this is my problem. Again, more ignorance. He is describing mob mentality versus what our Constitution actually protects, which is protesting. He is conflating the two. And again, he's showing his ignorance in this podcast. He 1 second is saying how appalled he is by immigration, but then continuing with ignorant rhetoric about homeless people and homelessness in cities in our country, and then trying to conflate mob mentality with protesting. No. Mob mentality is exactly what he described. Mob mentality, since he described it that way, is what happened on January 6th. That's what happened. Okay? That's what a mob is. But you want to talk about protesting? Then let's talk about it. Like the No Kings March. That is a protest. We haven't seen the No Kings March. I mean, there was previous ones, but you didn't see No Kings breaking windows and taking down buildings like January 6ers. No. So let's define that mob as January 6th, and let's define peaceful protesting as a No Kings March. Even though our government, like Mike Johnson, is trying to conflate our right to protest as a We Hate America rally. So let's also talk about the points here. That if you have a mob, okay, that's a mob. That is why it is essential that we have peaceful protests. And what leads a peaceful protest is a leader in that peaceful protest. So what Joe Rogan is saying here is that Martin Luther King was a mob leader. That's what he's saying. But the truth is, Martin Luther King was a peaceful protester for civil rights. He was not a mob leader. He linked arms and went down the street protesting for civil rights. That's why it is essential when it comes to peaceful protesting to have an organizer and a leader. And I wanted to point this out because during this past summer, we had a lot of marches and protests. And Jasmine Crockett actually went out on, I believe it was a post on Twitter, some social media, and she said, this is what you need to do to protect yourself for peaceful protesting. She was a leader in peaceful protesting. She was a leader in protesting in general, not trying to incite a mob. So that's the difference between a mob and January 6ers versus peaceful protesters like Martin Luther King Jr. and now Jasmine Crockett, who is out here telling people this is how you peacefully protest, and if you get detained, this is how you act in a detaining situation. So again, it's these podcasters that are continuing to have this rhetoric down people's throats and their listeners' throats, which gets them riled up and shows them that the opposite side, the opposition, is the problem. The opposition is creating the inflammatory and incendiary comments and actions, when that is simply not true. So Joe Rogan educate yourself a little bit. Just educate yourself a little bit and, pause these ignorant statements. And before you get on your podcast and state them, let's just pause a little bit. But another person I want to talk about is Candace Owens, because she's another podcaster who is sitting on her high horse, her throne, and trying to portray to everyone that she's now a changed human being. But the truth is, she has not disillusioned herself from most of her standpoints on gender, on race, on any of those factors that she ran her platform on and became successful off of. But now that she is on this conspiracy rabbit hole of Charlie Kirk's death, people are seeming to forget the rhetoric that she contributed to the rise of this fascist regime in Trump. So I want to go ahead and play this clip from Candace Owens' podcast that was recently just brought up here. But before I get to that, I just, I'll play it. I'll play it first. Let's play it. This is the first 2 minutes of a podcast. It is Candace and Milo, and it's the rise of the gatriarchy. And it shows that she once again is biased and a bigot. She is biased and a bigot against the LGBTQ plus community. So let's go ahead and play this real quick.
Okay, so I grew up in the 90s, and we were taught in school that some people are born gay. The older that I get and I speak to people who struggle with homosexuality or live out homosexual lives, and actually the majority of them don't think they were born gay. They typically will correlate their homosexuality to some event that's happened in their past. Well, I want to discuss this theme today because virtually everything that I'm reading right now, whether it's Hollywood Babylon or getting into Sigmund Freud and the history of Jewish mysticism, there is some element of homosexuality. Is this a part of an occultic practice?
Do you see her words? How she's equating homosexuality to occultic practices? How she's saying that from her experiences and her conversations, homosexuality is a choice. You aren't born gay. This was posted 1 month ago, and she's still in this conspiracy theory rabbit hole where people are trying to now get on her side because she changed her opinion on her international affairs when it comes to Trump, Israel, Gaza, and things of that nature. Now she's being looked at as a saint when she still holds most of her conservative value views in her own bigotry on her channel while sitting here and trying to remove herself from Donald Trump and Israel because she doesn't agree with it. Just because someone doesn't agree with one thing someone does doesn't mean that the rest of their livelihood removes from their path. So let's continue watching this real quick because it's like a minute. This guy that she has on here is weird too. He makes weird comments.
Sexuality been pushed upon our society because it is disordering. Are we even allowed to say that on YouTube? Anyways, here to join me, Milo Yiannopoulos. Let me start from the beginning here.
I want to say I've never struggled with homosexuality. I was brilliant at it from day one.
He's a recovered homosexual, by the way. Not with that suit. Not with those glasses. Not with that gay accent.
But it did occur to me 5 years ago that hell was real and I don't want to go.
So you say you're a reformed or a recovered homosexual?
I say ex-gay because it sounds hilarious, but the truth is...
Ex-gay does sound good.
It's good, isn't it? But the truth is, as far as I've got so far is celibacy, and the good thing about the male libido is the less you have, less you want. So I never thought that I would be happy kind of not really having sexual activity per se, but it's fine. And now I'm into the messy, difficult, and terrifying business of casting my eye over the female population. It's probably more terrifying for them than it is for me.
And that's where I back out of this. Birds of a feather flock together. Birds of a feather flock together. Like, how are you going to sit here and say that you casting your eye on females is going to be more trouble for them than it is for you? That's just weird to say. That's very predatory. That's very predatory. And of course, Candace Owens would have a predatory person on her podcast because she's revolves around the world of predatory people. She was in the world of Trump. And just because she's removing herself from that world of Trump doesn't mean that there's more swamp around her, because she's still involved with these right-wing extremists that support the views that gay people are immoral, that any gay person is going to hell. So this is what I'm saying. Just because she's now being patronized as a saint because of her views on Israel and Gaza and the normal views that women and children and human beings should not be killed in a genocide, people are now saying, we agree with Candace, but you can't forget the rhetoric that she spewed to get this man elected into the White House to her platform, through her platform to her base. So that is the dichotomy of it all. When we talk about these podcasters using their voice, and then they want to change their tune on something that aligns with more liberal, but we can't forget all the effect of the rhetoric that they previously stated and put out into the world to get elected an individual who was trying to suppress freedom of speech, suppress freedoms, and arrange the Constitution into a dictatorship that he controls. And this is, in regards to Candace, like, this is what I'm talking about. I want to play this video as well here. That's if my... Here we go.
And Trump wants a Nobel Peace Prize, by the way, for the planned ethnic cleansing so that they could profit on the land and turn it into a beach town. So let me say this. This is our never again, okay? This is a Holocaust. A Holocaust just happened. A real Holocaust just happened.
Which is true.
We will never forget this. You need to tell your children what happened in Gaza. You need to tell them exactly who did it, exactly whose families were involved in this. And when you hear in the future somebody tell you, like, we're going to Gaza Beach for a vacation, you need to look at them like they are the absolute vermin of our society, because they are.
You know what I'm going to say? When I look at you, Candace Owens, you're the absolute vermin of our society because you were bought and paid for by Donald Trump. And you got this man elected who is now destroying democracy. So don't try and sit here and play the moral high ground, because now you feel that the killing of women and children and human beings in general and a genocide in Gaza makes you somehow morally superior to the person you helped get elected and put into the office that contributed to the genocide in Gaza. You're not morally superior. You may have had an epiphany, but you have to take some responsibility and not brush it off as now you're morally superior because you saw the error of Donald Trump, who contributed to the genocide in Gaza. So this is just more rhetoric. They're trying to save face, these right-wing podcasters, to try and seem morally grounded, when truth is they are morally corrupt and bought by Donald Trump, by these right-wing extreme organizations to spew rhetoric that affects actual human beings. So stop now playing the morally superior card, Candace Owens. Stop now playing the morally superior card, Joe Rogan, and actually just admit you were wrong and try and change your ways. And other people who are now supporting these people or trying to find ways to forgive these people, go ahead, forgive them. But don't forget that these people contributed to the state of the nation we are currently in, that is so hectic, so divisive, and so grotesque that they are now trying to save face. Don't forget it. And it also goes to Marjorie Taylor Greene as well, because she's the worst of the worst. She's made racial comments. Laura Loomer also made just racist tweets to people. And this is Marjorie Taylor Greene, and I'm going to play this clip real quick here.
They're very hopeless for their future. Are you concerned about the cost of living? Are you,
very.
That the President Trump said he would lower? The inflation crushed people in the past 4.5 years, and the costs have not come down. I myself can tell you my apartment here in Washington, D.C., the electricity bill is $100 more than it was last year, because you can look at your own bill and look at costs. Prices have not come down. That is a reality. People's wages have not gone up. That's another reality. And so Americans are continuing to have a very difficult time getting by. And I'll go a step further. I'm a mom. And so when it comes to what is affecting my adult children's lives, who are 22, 26, and 28, I'm going to be 1,000% fighting for them over any politician and any party.
And there it is. There it is. There is that statement from Marjorie Taylor Greene. If it didn't affect them, they would not be fighting and have a stance on an issue that affects the general American public. If it didn't affect her kids, she would not be speaking out about this. And this is the problem when it comes to the people in these high-ranking positions, in these positions that get people to persuade the general public, like podcasters like Candace Owens. Candace Owens isn't sitting here fighting Gaza and genocide because she willfully wants to. No, she's upset, and rightfully upset, and now has gone down a conspiracy theory hole of Charlie Kirk's murder. And that's why now she's against Netanyahu. That's why now she's like, fuck Trump. That's why now Marjorie Taylor Greene is changing her tune. It's not because they've changed their tune on anything else in their repertoire. No, it's because they've been personally affected by the decisions this administration's making. And instead of proactively understanding how these decisions could affect not only them, but also try and give empathy to the American public that it would actually affect, they chose to reactively try and defend. And now they're in a place where every other American is, because right now we're fighting an uphill battle against a fascism regime in Trump. So when it comes to these people, it's just, the dissent is more about specific ideas. It's about how these dissents affect them personally. Joe Rogan, Candace Owens, Marjorie Taylor Greene, from podcasters to people serving in our public offices. It only matters when it affects them personally. So you have to look at Candace Owens here, and I made kind of a little bit of a list here because basically, let me just pull up this list. Like her core conservative views still remain. Like, she didn't abandon all of the beliefs she supported. She still supports... Where's my list here? I had a list here. Yeah, so she still supports free markets, limited government, strong border control, traditional social and religious values. She continues to attack the trans community. She continues to attack the LGBTQ community. She continues it in her interviews on her channel, on her podcast. You have Marjorie Taylor Greene, who continues to spew rhetoric about racial injustices and falsehoods that white people are now being oppressed, and that, spewing nothing but racial comments at Jasmine Crockett about her lashes and causing chaos in our Congress. And then you have Joe Rogan as well, who is now just stating and trying to save face and be a person who's now appalled by the actions of this administration, while also later on, 5 minutes later in that podcast, making ignorant statements about homeless people and protesters, contributing to the rhetoric that is trying to get our streets militarized by our president. So it's all just a show. They are grifters. They are con artists. They are nothing more than scum. So just be very aware. You can forgive them, but don't forget them for the actions that put a fascist into our presidency to turn us into a dictatorship. So I also wanted to talk about the Nobel Peace Prize. It's insanity because we knew Trump was vying for the Nobel Peace Prize. We knew it. He knew he wanted that. He wanted that so bad, like a child wanted the Christmas present that they always wanted on Christmas morning. It would have been such a big feather in Donald Trump's cap to have the Nobel Peace Prize and claim it as his, to put it on his mantle and say, I did something without doing anything. Because honestly, he has not ended the wars he's claimed he's ended. Yes, right now we are in a transition period of the Israel-Gaza situation, but that's not fully transpired to ending a war. So when we talk about the Nobel Peace Prize, where did my thing go? What's her name? Her name was... I know her last name. Here we go. Maria Mercado. So this is the person who won the Nobel Peace Prize. And obviously Trump is butthurt and MAGA is melting down over this Nobel Peace Prize nomination and recipient. And honestly, what else would you expect? The White House then put out a statement that the Nobel Committee proved they place politics over peace. What peace has Donald Trump contributed to other than the chaos in his own country? How is that a requirement for the Nobel Peace Prize? Creating chaos and disillusion and disorientation and complete rebellion in your own country because of a fascist movement that you are trying to implement. That's not Nobel Peace Prize worthy, Donald Trump. So the fact that he had the nerve to say that the Nobel Committee put politics over peace is ironic, because how many times has our government put politics and donors and money, like the Heritage Foundation, and contributing to the advancement of Project 2025 over peace? Very ironic for our White House to come out with that statement when Donald Trump has not contributed to peace. He has created nothing but chaos since the start of his second term in our presidential office. So it's funny, though, because when we look at the Nobel Peace Prize Committee, they stated that the committee said Mercado 58 is receiving the prize first and foremost for her efforts to advance democracy in Venezuela at a time democracy is also in retreat internationally. Direct shot at Donald Trump, because he's the one who's trying to dismantle democracy in a nation that has stood strong on democracy and tried to implement democracy in other nations in the world and tried to keep it strong. Yet he's the one trying to dismantle democracy. So yeah, he wouldn't get the Nobel Peace Prize when democracy promotes a free market, freedom for everyone, and equality for people. The ability to, in our Declaration of Independence, to pursue the right to pursuit of happiness. Like, why would you get the Nobel Peace Prize, Donald Trump? Like, why? But MAGA is having a fit over it, and honestly, it is what it is. MAGA is snowflake crybabies, and they will have a fit over anything that's taken from their daddy, Donald Trump. And it's kind of scary, and it's kind of weird, actually. It's like a cult. Oh. Wait, it is a cult. But yeah, so it be what it be when it comes to MAGA, and it is what it is. But this is funny. I wanted to actually pop this up real quick as well before I end this podcast stream. Let's go ahead and pop this. So this photo was taken by of Donald Trump. And if you don't see it, I will zoom in, because this is one of my favorite podcasters right now who reports on news, Keith Edwards. I really do like him. I think he is a great podcaster. But he updated the cropped image. And look at the devil horns on Trump. This is not an edited photo at all. Like, this is not an edited photo. No one photoshopped this in. No AI created this. No, this is a real photo from a meeting, and the photo is contributions by Jim Watson. And he has literal devil horns over his head. And this is like such a telling sign that this man is evil. It's a sign from God. Not the Christian God, but the real God. Like, this man is effing evil. Like the Antichrist. But, I don't know. It be what it be. We just gotta keep trugging on day by day and talking about everything that continues to go on in our society, in our world. But I just wanted to, like, this is just such an ironic picture because this man is the devil. Like, Donald Trump is literally the devil. And you can't say otherwise because what he has done to roll back the protections of women, the protections of LGBTQ people, the protections of minority communities like Black people with DEI and with immigrants and Spanish people with deportations. Everyone has been touched when it comes to this administration. And the next group of people that are going to be touched is going to be women of all colors. Women are going to be next on the chopping block. Their rights to vote will be on the chopping block. We already saw them, and a lot of Christian churches saying that the vote should be akin to the head of the household, that women shouldn't have individual rights to vote. And Project 2025, reiterates that. And when we talk about Project 2025, it is an end goal of white Christian nationalism to rule America. And I wanted to touch on one more thing here. Vivek Ramaswamy, I believe his name is, he got into a little bit of a call out with some Turning Point members. Let's go ahead and play this.
Jesus Christ is God, and there is no other God. He is part of the Holy Trinity, and any other God is a demon, and it's false. How can you represent the constituents of Ohio who are 64% Christian if you are not a part of that faith? If you are an Indian, a Hindu, coming from a different culture, different religion than those who founded this country, those who grew this country, built this country, made this country the beautiful thing that it is today, what are you conserving? You are bringing change. I'll be 100% honest with you. Christianity is the one truth.
And this is where it's so scary. So I will get to Vivek's response. But the conviction in that young man's voice about Christianity screams cults. Like, when you look into Christians' eyes, not all Christians, but American Christians' eyes, because there's a difference between Christianity and American Christianity. It's like they've been brainwashed. Like, there's no other thought. Like, it's a rhetorical thought that they were programmed to spew out, to reject anything that isn't of the Christian faith. And it shows it in this clip here that this young man was brainwashed by his Christian faith. And this is why I say Christianity, American Christianity, is more of a cult than a religion. They used, or Donald Trump used, Christianity to get into the White House. It was the perfect scapegoat for his wrongdoings because Christians forgive everything, even rapists and pedophiles. They protect them. We see it when pastors in church touch little kids. We see it in homes when men beat their wives and beat their kids or molest their kids. This is why Christianity is a perfect scapegoat for wrongdoing. You pray to God, God forgives you, and then you continue on your day and continue making the same mistakes. And then it's a cycle. You pray again to God. And it's just a cycle that doesn't end when it comes to Christianity. And this young man pointing out that Vivek being a Hindu does not align with Christianity is proof that Christianity isn't about love and acceptance. Christianity is about one true God, and if you don't respect that one true God, you don't mean anything to society. And it proved it right here. And what Vivek, I know what Vivek is trying to do, and I do not support this man, I don't like him, but what he's trying to do is grift off the Christian ideology. He's trying to do exactly what Donald Trump did. He's trying to do exactly what Charlie Kirk has done. He's trying to grift and scam off of the Christian ideology. And this young man called it out. If you're not a Christian and you don't call yourself a Christian and you don't have Christian beliefs, why are you speaking and trying to bring change to a society in Ohio, I believe he said, that is Christian faith-based? And this is where the grifting comes in when it comes to political regimes, when it comes to political activists, when it comes to Vivek Ramaswamy. He knew and he saw the opportunity Trump took in Christianity, and he tried to do it himself. But this time, they're not going to allow that to happen because they're not going to allow a Hindu to misuse Christianity. They're not going to use someone who's brown to misuse Christianity, but they will allow and scapegoat Donald Trump to use Christianity to propel their views of Christianity. So if we go ahead and continue on this here.
Christian voices should be the main voice of America, and I want to know.
Christian voices should be the main voice of America. Do you not see the ethno-religion and ethnocentrism that Christianity is looking to uphold here in the United States? That's why it's so scary. That's why people look at religion as a demonic force. Why should your religion dictate other people's lives who don't abide by it? I don't abide by Christianity. A lot of people in my life don't abide by Christianity. So why should we live by your Bible and your book that you can't prove is 100% true? And that has been written time and time and time again, and reconstructed time and time and time again by men who have ulterior motives to oppress women, to oppress minorities, and to pedestalize a white man as the closest thing to God. Why am I going to believe a religion that promotes that?
Know basically why you seem to be, and I don't mean to be horribly offensive, but why you seem to be masquerading as a Christian.
You familiar with the Ten Commandments?
You call yourself a Hindu, but you also call yourself Christian.
I don't call myself Christian. I call myself a Hindu. I'm not running to be pastor of Ohio. I'm running to be governor of Ohio, and I didn't run to be pastor of America. I ran to be president of the United States of America.
So then why are you speaking at Turning Point USA, which is a Christian, entity, Vivek? They called you out on it. And the only reason they were able to call you out on it is because you're a Hindu. You're a brown person. They're not going to allow a brown person to scapegoat Christianity and make their way to a high-ranking position in government. But Donald Trump, that's okay because he's a white man. We can forgive a white man for his sins, but we can't forgive a brown man for scapegoating Christianity for his sins. That's the racism that is rooted in Christianity, and it is on display in this clip.
What's your faith?
I'm a Christian. Follower of Jesus.
Great. Do you believe in the Holy Trinity? The Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit?
I think a lot of people here do. So
good. And that doesn't make you a polytheist, does it?
Probably not, no.
Great. And so in my faith, I believe there's one true God. He resides in all of us, and he appears in different forms, but it's one true God. So I'm an ethical monotheist. That's the way I would describe my faith. Do you think it's inappropriate for someone who's a Hindu to be, say, a U.S. president?
No, I think it's... No, well...
You be honest.
Isn't Hinduism...
Because you're an Indian.
I can ask yourself that Hinduism believes in...
And the racism was right there. Do you think a Hindu can be a U.S. president? And it went from, because Christianity or American Christianity is rooted in racism. It's rooted in oppression. It's rooted in a patriarchal society that oppresses everyone else that is not a white man.
Shiva and what is it? The flute
God, I forget.
Right, Krishna, who's you're thinking of?
Yeah, Krishna. But isn't Charlie Kirk's organization founded on Christian values as well? And isn't the United States of America also, based on what Protestantism is, based on how those values are?
No, the United States is not based on those values. We've made it very clear that there needs to be a separation of church and state. And the fact that this administration and the entities that support this administration continue trying to conflate religion and Christianity and American Christianity at most with our government entities and our federal laws should be, again, illegal because there is a separation of church and state. So your adverse effect that Christianity is the one true religion for America should be completely dismantled because, again, church and state is separate.
Wouldn't that contradict what your beliefs are?
Like I said, I'm not here to justify my faith to you any more than you are to me, but what I do share is the value set this country was founded on. And I think that it's really important that we not reinvent the founding of this country and what it was actually.
He really tried it, but he got called out because he's a brown person, and I don't support Vivek at all, but he did get called out because he's a brown person by Christians who are inherently racist because Christianity is founded on racism. Christianity is not only founded on racism, it's based in racism, it's based in oppression, it's based in a white ethnocentric world that creates the United States as a religious entity of the Christian doctrine. And we have to continue to fight for this separation of church and state every fucking day. And it's tiring because we want people to have their Christianity. We want people to practice their faith. We want Hindus to practice their faith. We want Muslims to practice their faith. We want Jews to practice their faith. We want Catholics to practice their faith. We want Christians to practice their faith. But what we don't want, and this is why our freedom of religion exists in our Constitution, we don't want one religion to be a religion or the poster religion of the United States, because that is not what the United States is founded on. The United States is founded on a multicultural nation that contributes to the betterment of society through not ethnocentrism, but through complete and utter melting pots of cultures that contributes to not only our economic growth, but our social growth. And we continue to have ideas and perceptions that create conversations where we can try and meet in the middle. But again, your religion does not dictate everyone's lives in America. But I just found it funny that Vivek was called out. And the reason he was called out was because Christianity, and it showed it in that clip, Christianity is rooted in oppression and racism. Anyway, guys, if you guys haven't already, you guys can go ahead and hit that subscribe button. And you don't want to miss out on new episodes of The Civil Point with myself, your host, Ariana. I'm usually on every night. And I hope you guys have a good weekend. Do things that are fun. Do things that are entertaining to you. And I hope everyone just, stays woke. Stays woke to what is going on in this country, to the overtaking of power, to the dissection and destruction of democracy. And we continue the good fight by speaking up about these issues, especially when it comes to freedom of speech right now, since our government officials are trying to take it away. So keep speaking up, keep going to protest safely, and enjoy the rest of your night. Adios.